Okay, so we are on episode 5 of Motivated with Maz Shazad. First of all, let's talk about your haircut situation at the start. What was that about?
Well, bro, I've not seen a barber since 2019. So, obviously lockdown, my dad's a little bit vulnerable, so I haven't been seeing a barber or going out anything.
That's good, man.
So I had to do that myself, which is why it was a bit messed up, but you fixed me up right today.
Yeah. You had what was the character look? That look you were going for?
Is that Brad Pitt in Fury?
Yeah, that's
Maybe Arthur Shelby in Peaky Blinders, I don't know if you watched that.
No, I've seen that guy. I was thinking you look similar to Brad Pitt, and some other guys also. It probably was him. Now, if you follow on to the real part now, so when did you first become serious about academics?
So I think before I became serious about academics, it was about becoming serious to fulfilling what my dad set for me in terms of targets. Right. So my family obviously moved over to the UK, they've been through the struggle and whatnot, but my dad wanted me to do everything from sports to academia. Now, when I was 3 or 4 years old, he had me in gymnastics. And in my first year, I won first place in the club champs competition.
Yeah, that's it.
And he was so proud because it was a complete surprise. We didn't expect it. I hadn't even been training for a year, and it was mad. But my next year, when I was 4 years old, I didn't come first, second, or third place. And my man was very vexed at me. He was quite angry. And he just gave me that look.
Man, you need a break, man.
But honestly, that's when it was all born, because I never wanted that feeling again. And after that, every year on year, I hit that nail on the head, and I came first in club champs until I represented the club and the borough at London Youth Games. And even then, I placed on the podium and I managed to get a medal, alhamdulillah. So it was quite an experience, but that's what started me being serious. But in terms of academia, it was about applying that sort of pressure in the academic sphere. And the first time I felt that was, my dad came to this country, and obviously he didn't speak too much English or anything, but he had the blueprint in mind, which was, I want my son to be successful, he'll bang the sports, but also he needs to bang the academics. So in his mind, he would always look up what the best school was. Eventually he found out the best school in the country, well, the best free school, that is. Obviously you couldn't afford private schools, but the best free school is Queen Elizabeth's Boys School in Barnet. And however, there is an application process for that, and there's about 3,000 kids who apply for the 150 spaces per year. So that's nearly 20 kids per place, right? And you have to sit 4 different exams for that. And I don't even know what half of them were. They were verbal and non-verbal reasoning. So my parents, they had to save up, and they had to, spend everything they had so that I could go to tuition. Yeah. And there was times, like we were in that £200 car, and that would run out of petrol on the way there. These are things that I was sheltered from. But my mum had a talk with me where she said, we're spending a lot on this, and it's quite hard, but I want you to do your best. Yeah. And, when I heard that, I was like, I got to put my all into it. And alhamdulillah, there was a little bit of talent, a lot of luck, and even more support from my parents and all the sacrifices they made. And I was able to get into that school. Yeah. And really, that's where it all started. Like, I knew what this opportunity meant to me. To other kids, it might be a school, it might just be tutoring, but I knew how much it meant and how much they sacrificed for me. So that's when I got serious.
So I just want to say that as well. I just remembered you mentioning both your mum and your dad. So your dad, his character was more firm, more strong. How would you describe the comparison between the two? Because your mum was more softer with it, was it?
Yeah, my mum definitely, how mums are, they're very soft. But my dad, I would say the word is military.
Yeah, that was it. That's
so my dad would have me up at 5 a.m. and he would take me swimming.
Yeah.
He would take me straight to school, and my school was far away because it was the best school, but it was far out of the area. He would make sure, I would get to school on time. I would get home fairly late, like 5:30, 5 o'clock, because it was that far away. And he would record every single test mark I got. Yeah. And, he would know what I got on every single test. He would know what set I was in. And at my school, it's known as an exams factory. We had exams nearly every 2-3 weeks for each subject, right? Maybe even 4 weeks. So he kept record of that, and he would see my progress. And, I would walk home before it was 80%. Yeah. And he wouldn't be happy. He'd be like, I want 90s. Then I started getting 90s. He's like, I want 95 plus. When I got 95 plus, he'd be like, okay, who got the highest in the class? Yeah. And then it got to the point where even if I was getting 95, my dad would be like, I don't care if someone got higher. Yeah. You can fill out that 5%.
Damn, man. Yeah, a lot of competition there, man.
Bro, honestly, the school was competitive because there are even people from my school who are coming first or second in Cambridge in their subjects.
Right.
So obviously, like, I'm studying at Cambridge now, and there are a lot of people from my school there who come first or second. So my dad to be putting that kind of pressure on me, it really did breed a lot of results for me personally.
I mean, my respect goes out to him as well, because you did mention about the graft he put in during the younger days to get you saved up for to the school.
Yeah, so my dad, so the school obviously didn't have fees, but to afford tuition, generally to move to this country is such an expensive process, as you know, bro. Like, my dad would work, 3 or 4 jobs. He would sleep maybe 3-4 hours a night, and he would keep that on for months and years.
As the listeners, they might be thinking, "Wow, your dad is harsh, man," but he had a dream for you in his mind that he put in all the sacrifices he had to do as well.
Bro, I'm so grateful that my dad, was like that, because now I don't settle for average. I don't settle for whatever, and it's a big motivator. Like, what I want to do is, settle him, give him the life that he deserves after all that grafting, all that grinding. So that was the motivator, and when it got to GCSEs, I did pretty well. Like, I got to do a few extra GCSEs at my school, so they had a few programs for gifted and talented students, and I ended up with 14 A stars and 1 A at GCSE. And my dad was like, "What's the 1 A for?" That's what it was. It was in history, and he wasn't pleased. It was that's what it was. Yeah, but honestly, like, then when it came to A levels, straight 4 A stars, like 98, 99 average. And alhamdulillah.
What advice would you give to the youngers that maybe they're doing GCSEs or A levels, or what advice would you give to them? What was your sort of structure throughout the day, especially pre-exam?
So I gotta say, like, the one thing that really changed me was waking up early. Now, I'll talk a little bit about it more later and talk about how I've adapted it since I got to uni. But for me, it was waking up at 5:30 a.m. And before I would even have breakfast, I would make sure I got 4 maths past papers out of the way, with maybe a small workout as well. But I did so many of them, bro. If you can imagine, it started in February before GCSEs. And from February until June, whenever it was, I would do 4 maths papers a day. It got to the point where I ran out of past papers.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, I did international papers.
Yeah.
I did this thing called Solomon papers, if you want to look that up. That's like these other made up questions.
Oh, okay.
There's a bunch of other types of papers for different exam boards even.
Right.
And I sat all of them to the point where, even at A levels actually, I was managing to do a maths C4 paper. My record time was like 13 minutes, 14 minutes, something like that. Wow. Because I saw the question immediately and I knew what topic they were testing, what lines of reasoning they wanted to see, etc. But all of that came from waking up early. And why that is that when you wake up, your brain is at its most active, right? You have about 3 hours of productivity. After that, the brain is, it goes down a little bit. So I would wake up, no phone, no emails, no nothing, right? And actually, this has recently been affirmed. So I wasn't doing it consciously before, but it's been affirmed by a psychologist PhD at Cambridge, yeah. So she affirmed that to me. And the idea is your brain is active. So if you hit those 3 hours in the morning, you get more done and you can get through those intellectually difficult tasks. Right. All that heavy lifting, you can get that done and out of the way with.
Are you saying both academically and physically as well, yeah?
I think academically is the first thing.
So heavy lifting, what, in terms of...
I meant heavy lifting in terms of, maths is much harder than English, right?
Yeah.
English, it's just, you read the stuff, you make your comments.
Also, you said you can also reset this, so that's why you sleep twice a day, is it?
So, yeah, once I've got to uni and, you have all of that extra freedom now, right? No longer having to do classes or whatever, like, lectures, they're set, but other than that, most of the day is free. It's how you structure it. Yeah. What I clocked was, and how I sort of hacked it, is that you can sleep and wake up twice in a day with a fresh mind, right?
That's right.
And maybe it might not be the 3 hours the second time around, but you'll still get a decent amount of time when your brain can digest and analyze so much more information and learn so much better. So what I would do is, and I would recommend you guys download the Sleep Cycle app.
I'm going to try that myself, yeah.
So it'll basically record when you're in that rapid eye motion sleep where you're learning, and it'll wake you up when you're in the lighter phase of sleep. So you wake up not tired, not groggy. But you can also just time it yourself in multiples of 1.5 hours. So obviously I'll try and sleep maybe 6 hours at night, and that'll give you 4 sleep cycles of 1.5 hours. Yeah. I'll wake up fairly active because I timed it. I'll get my work done, work out, hit lectures. Then midday, a little bit in the afternoon maybe, I'll hit a nap for an hour and a half. And then that gives me, my brain is refreshed to hit a second heavy, intellectually stimulating period of revision or reading or whatever it is for my degree.
You know what will be interesting there, can you let the viewers know what you mentioned to me before, how many hours did you put in? Was it during uni time? You said Go on, I won't spoil it.
So uni time, I've been experimenting with it a lot.
Yeah.
But as I was saying to you, it runs in 2-week cycles, right? And in 2 weeks, I could be required to read up to 1,000 pages and attend maybe 20 plus hours of lectures. So because of that, I would wake up at 5:30 every day, and I would try get maybe 7 hours of work plus working out in, nap, and I would work all the way into the night. So that would be easily 13 plus hours a day, maybe 14 hours of actually sitting at a desk and reading. Not including the breaks or the working out.
That's crazy, man.
So, and I would do that, but it comes at a cost because you can't do that 7 days a week, all of term. So I would do that maybe for 4 or 5 days, then maybe take a more chilled day or two. Sometimes maybe even 3 days, off completely.
The life of a Cambridge student. Not even just a Cambridge student. You said there was 30, was it 30 sections?
30 colleges. So,
30 colleges,
so Oxford and Cambridge and Durham as well, they have this old system of colleges. So it's a collegiate system. And if anyone's interested in applying, make sure you research and apply to one college. Don't put in an open application. That's something you can do. So research, and the colleges have different, stuff to them. Some of them are girls-only colleges. Some of them are for mature students, so kids who are over 21. But my college is Trinity College, right? It was, objectively, in my opinion, I think it was the best college. And I was actually too afraid to apply to it. I wanted to apply to a less prestigious, less competitive college initially. Reason being is that, this place, it was nearly 10-1 or 9-1 applicants per place, right? And that's because it has the most international students, it has the most talent, because the Cambridge colleges are ranked in this table called the Tompkins table. And Trinity College, the one that I went to, it ranked top consistently for most of the decade before I applied.
So this is out of the 30 colleges?
Out of the 30 colleges.
Cambridge.
Yeah, and also it has the biggest endowment, which means it has £1.4 billion. So they have amazing facilities, huge rooms. They provide you with all of this funding. And actually, I was planning on going on a charity project this year to Pakistan.
Right.
And basically installing water filtration or a well in some sort of rural community. Reason being that sort of reflects my background. So I told the college about that, and they were like, cool, there's this fund you can apply to. And they were giving me about £1,300 to go and do that, which would pay for my flights and some of the infrastructure there. And obviously I would try and raise some more funds on my own so I could have a bigger impact. But it's the thing that college specifically, they had all the money, they had all the best professors, all of the talent there. And, alhamdulillah, like my dad pushed me to be able to apply to that college because I would have been too scared on my own. But he said to me, and what sticks with me to this day, he said to me, it might be 10-1, it might even be 20-1, but these are the best odds you faced in your life, considering how difficult it is to move under the circumstances we did to survive when we got here. Even your secondary school, like getting into your school, it won't be as hard as getting into your school, because back then, we didn't have good English, we didn't know anything about the application process, whatever. Now, you've been at this school for 7 years, you know what to do. He said, make every move a big move, make it a big move, make it a legacy play, So in light of that, I didn't apply for that lesser college and I went for the best one, and it worked out. It was a bit of a risk, but it worked out. And it really did actually improve, the quality of life even when you're at Cambridge, because you got the best accommodation, you got the best facilities, you got the best teachers. Exactly. So obviously everyone has the same lectures, but the unique thing about Oxford and Cambridge is that you have 2-1 or 3-1 supervisions, and that's with the people who are in your college mostly. And at Trinity, they have, some of the best, like the lead legal advisor to Brussels for EU law, that sort of thing. Like they have the best academics in there.
Also, I remember looking at your Instagram stories, you had a timetable of how you actually had your day-to-day structure. I just want to point out, man, mashallah, I saw your Fajr was there from the first thing. So I just want to say your academics is there, your fitness is there, and your deen is also there.
Thank you, bro.
But yeah, if you can just highlight on your structure, I think that you had quite a few hours of swimming in there as well.
So back in the day, that was the thing. It's not so much anymore.
Okay.
So I stopped swimming when I was at uni because the facility is a little bit far away. But back in the day, I would be waking up at maybe 5:15. My dad would take me straight to the pool for a training session.
Yeah. And you did these 5:30 early mornings all the time, like regularly. This was your lifestyle.
This was my lifestyle, yeah.
And you always recommend this now to anyone.
Bro, you know what they say? Early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise.
You told me about the worm one.
Nah.
Early bird
This one rhymes.
That's because we're Asian, isn't it? We remember that one for sure.
Yeah.
Also, just to finish off, you've got a podcast yourself. You want to let the viewers know about that?
Right, yes. So that's Modern Renaissance Men.
What made you want to do it as well?
So the podcast is called Modern Renaissance Men.
Yep.
right? And modern Renaissance men, in terms of a Renaissance man, is one who gets involved in all of the disciplines, from art to sport to literature to maths to science, right? That's what a Renaissance man is. So, I kind of wanted to explore everything, and the main motivator behind it was putting other people on game. So, like I mentioned earlier, I had my dad, who was a great role model, great motivator, but I didn't know people who were in the law. I didn't know lawyers. I didn't know people who had been to university, let alone Cambridge or Oxford, right? So my idea was, by creating this podcast, I would be able to get interesting people on who would be able to show what is possible. So one episode I had with my guy who actually left school early, full-time job, taught himself A-levels and got into Cambridge.
Yeah.
I have other guys who are, talking about their motivation. My guy's hopefully going to be on the Olympic team next year for athletics. And he's talking about his motivation, how he's been training, and the mentality behind it. So I hope to basically bring forward role models. I hope to basically reflect on some of my experiences so that people who didn't have, that access to role models in their respective academic or professional fields, they can have more social mobility. They can move up the socioeconomic ladder.
Also, to stop you there, on that note where you said about they had someone to look up to also, I remember I spoke to you about the whole thing about when I finished my degree, where to get into. You said there was a link that you'd suggest that they could help. So maybe the viewers could get into this as well.
So there are a bunch of social mobility organizations and charities. And what they do is basically, if you apply to them and you fit their criteria, they will put you on game, basically.
Yeah.
So the one that I worked with was Upreach, but there's some other good ones called Rare. And I'll send you some links so you can drop them in the description.
I'll let them see
you drop in your CV, maybe a few lines about yourself, and what they will do is that they will help you apply to the places you want to get into.
Yeah.
They'll give you exclusive opportunities for work experience and whatnot.
Yeah.
But also they'll make mock interviews for you. They'll review your applications in detail. It's that sort of vibe. So I would heavily recommend it, because there are a lot of people offering paid services.
Free at the end of the day, isn't it?
Exactly, it's free. There's a lot of people offering paid services, but you don't need it. It's there for you for free.
If you're entitled to this, why not take it? And what would you say they should put into their CVs so that they're very interested in helping them out?
Bro, I think.
What would they be looking for?
I think you gotta be, just drop down your academics, because obviously you need a certain level of drive which you can show through your academia.
Yeah.
But there's nothing in specific. Like, the whole point of them is that they bolster up your CV. They give you the opportunities to populate your CV.
Yeah. Usually, where your background isn't the strongest, to show.
Exactly.
You ain't got the best, strongest background, but you're very motivated.
Exactly, and that'll make and the fact is, if your CV is not huge, that'll make them want to take you on even more.
Okay. All right, we'll close it off here, and I'll put in the link for the podcast. But yeah, it was a pleasure having you down, man.
It was a pleasure being with you, bro. Love for the trim is one of the best I've ever received.
No worries,
thank you.
I'll see you soon.